The story of the burning bush. As the evening stars begin to emerge like scattered diamonds across the desert sky, let us turn our thoughts to a sacred moment that occurred long ago in the wilderness of Midian. Here, we find Moses, no longer the prince of Egypt, but a shepherd tending his father-in-law's flocks in the quiet expanses of the desert landscape. Time had flowing like gentle waters since Moses had fled Egypt, carrying memories as heavy as stone in his heart. In Midian, he had found peace like a cool stream in the desert heat, taking a wife named Zipporah and learning the patient ways of a shepherd's life. His days were marked by the rhythm of dawn and dusk, following his sheep through valleys deep as dreams and over hills that rose like waves against the horizon. On this particular day, as soft winds carried the scent of wild herbs across the wilderness, Moses led his flock beyond their usual grazing grounds. His feet carried him toward Horeb, known as the Mountain of God, its ancient slopes rising like prayers against the sky. The silence of the desert wrapped around him like a familiar cloak, broken only by the gentle sounds of his flock and the whisper of wind through scattered shrubs. As the sun painted the landscape in hues of gold and amber, something unusual caught Moses' attention, like a star appearing before its time. There, among the rocky terrain, a bush burned with flames that danced like living light. Yet, as Moses watched, his shepherd's staff still in his weathered hands, he noticed something extraordinary that made his heart pause like a held breath. The bush, though wrapped in flames bright as sunrise, remained unchanged. Its leaves and branches as green and whole as morning dew. The fire moved like liquid gold through its branches, but consumed nothing, defying all that Moses knew about the nature of flame and fuel. Moving with the careful steps of one who has learned patience from the desert itself, Moses turned aside to observe this wonder more closely. The ground beneath his feet felt somehow different, as if the very earth was holding its breath in anticipation. The air around him grew still, like the hushed moment before dawn breaks across the sky. Then, like gentle rain falling on parched ground, a voice emerged from within the dancing flames. It called to Moses by name, the sound as clear as water flowing over stones. The voice carried both warmth and authority, like sunlight breaking through clouds, instructing Moses to remove his sandals, for he stood on holy ground. With hands that trembled like leaves in a gentle breeze, Moses removed his sandals, feeling the cool earth beneath his feet. He covered his face, not from fear, but from a deep sense of reverence that settled over him like evening dew. The presence of the divine surrounded him like a soft mantle, both awesome and intimate. The voice continued, gentle yet clear as morning light, revealing itself as the God of his ancestors, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. As these words flowed like honey in the desert air, Moses remained bowed, his heart beating like a drum in the silence of this holy moment. Then came words that would change not only Moses' life, but the story of his people. The Lord spoke of having seen the affliction of the Israelites in Egypt, of hearing their cries rising like incense to heaven. The divine heart, moved with compassion deep as the sea, had chosen this moment to act. In the warm glow of the supernatural fire, the Lord revealed a plan as vast as the desert sky. Moses was to return to Egypt, to stand before Pharaoh like a shepherd protecting his flock. He would lead the children of Israel out of bondage, guiding them like stars guide travelers in the night, toward a land flowing with milk and honey. As these words settled in the air like seeds waiting to take root, Moses felt smaller than a grain of desert sand. His voice, when he found it, emerged soft as a dove's call, expressing doubt about his adequacy for such a momentous task. The divine response came flowing like warm oil, soothing Moses' fears with a promise as ancient as the mountains themselves. "I will be with you," the voice assured, soft yet firm as bedrock beneath shifting sands, offering strength beyond his own understanding. Still, questions rose in Moses' heart like evening mist from the desert floor. His voice trembled like a leaf in the wind as he asked what name he should give when the people inquired about who had sent him. The answer came with the majesty of sunrise over silent dunes. "I am who I am," spoke the voice from the burning bush, each word falling like drops of precious water into the pool of Moses' consciousness. The fire continued to dance with unchanged intensity, its light as gentle as moonbeams on still waters, while further instructions flowed like a peaceful stream. The Lord spoke of signs that would accompany Moses, promises that would unfold like flowers after desert rain. His staff would become more than a shepherd's tool, transformed by divine purpose into a symbol of authority as steady as the stars above. When Moses spoke of his struggles with speech, his words coming slow and uncertain as water from a narrow spring, the response came wrapped in patience soft as morning mist. The Lord reminded him of who created every mouth, every ear, every human ability. Like a master weaver working with different threads, the divine craftsman knew precisely how to use Moses' perceived weaknesses for perfect purpose. Additional support was promised through Aaron, Moses' brother, whose gift of speech would flow smooth as honey. Together they would stand like two strong pillars, supporting each other in the great work ahead. This assurance settled over Moses like a warm blanket, easing the weight of responsibility that lay upon his shoulders. The conversation continued in that holy space. Instructions were given with the precision of a master artist and the gentleness of a caring teacher. Every detail was laid out like stars arranged in constellations, forming a pattern of divine purpose. In this timeless moment, as the bush continued its supernatural display of fire that nurtured rather than consumed, Moses felt transformation settling over him like dawn replacing night. The shepherd was becoming something more, like a seed breaking free of its shell to reach towards sunlight. As the sacred conversation drew to its natural close, Moses felt peace settling over him despite the magnitude of his calling. The burning bush continued its gentle radiance, its holy light touching the desert stones like a benediction, while the presence of the divine wrapped around him like an evening prayer. With hands that had grown steady as his acceptance deepened like roots seeking water, Moses took up his staff once more. This simple shepherd's tool, worn smooth by years of faithful use, would soon become a symbol of divine authority as constant as the North Star. The weight of it in his hands felt both familiar and new, like an old friend bearing fresh purpose. As Moses prepared to return to his flock, his heart was full as a vessel brimming with spring water. The desert around him seemed somehow changed, as if the very landscape had absorbed the holy encounter like morning dew soaking into thirsty ground. Each breath of wind, each grain of sand, each distant hill spoke of divine presence as clear as starlight on still waters. His journey back to Jethro's tents was walked with feet that seemed to barely touch the earth, like one moving through a dream yet fully awake. The sheep followed their shepherd as they always had, unaware that their quiet guardian now carried within him a fire as transformative as the one that had burned without consuming. That evening, as the sun painted farewell colors across the desert sky, Moses shared his experience with Zipporah. His words flowed gentle as a spring breeze, carrying the weight of divine purpose wrapped in humble acceptance. She listened with the wisdom of one who had known this man through seasons of quiet shepherding, recognizing that a new chapter was unfolding like a scroll of destiny. In the days that followed, as Moses prepared for the journey back to Egypt, he carried within him a peace deep as desert wells, though the task ahead loomed large as mountains on the horizon. The promise of divine presence sustained him like water in a dry land. The great I Am would be with him, as constant as the stars that had guided his steps through countless nights of shepherding. The story of the burning bush reminds us, like a lullaby sung to weary hearts, that holy ground can be found in the most unexpected places. It whispers to us that divine purposes often come wrapped in ordinary moments, waiting like seeds beneath desert soil for the right time to bloom.